We're changing things up a little bit today because I'm interviewing Nicole this time. My name is Catalina Block. I am the owner of Modern Photobooth, Modern Activations, and Photobooth Mastery. You're listening to the Photobooth podcast, and I have here with me Nicole from Own Your Moment Booth and Own Your Moment Co. And we're going to be talking all about drop-off booths.
Drop-off booths. Drop-off booths are awesome. I love it.
They are, yeah, if you can make them work. And you have made them work, right? So I'm so curious to know, first of all, why did you decide to do drop-off booths for your business?
So really was time. And it was also a way for me to provide the service, like a higher end quality service without physically being present. Because I'm a single mom. And so whenever I have to do an event, I have to also figure out care for my son while I'm doing that event. So that is a huge thing. And one of the biggest sacrifices I made in my first year of business was going to every single event. I'm trying to build my business. And there really came a point where I was getting so many events and I couldn't physically be there. I didn't have a team yet. And it was like, okay, well, how can I make this work? I'm so scared of like putting a photo booth without me there. You know, you think in your head that you can be the only one that does it all, and that's not true, you know? Yeah. And so I pitched it because I couldn't find a babysitter, and this event was really close by. And so it was kind of like all right, I know it's possible with the photo booth to drop it off, to secure it, to use guided access and, all of that stuff. There's a way to kind of protect it. Let's try it and see if it'll work. And so it was a local event. I think it was like a Valentine's Day event at like a little boutique shop. It was really cute. They provided the little backdrop, and all I had to do was bring my photo booth. And so I remember that day like it was yesterday, like dropping it off, setting it all up, and being like, okay, bye. It felt like, kindergarten all over again, like sending a kid off to school. But I remember like watching all of the photos come in and seeing everyone have so much fun, and then hearing all of the positive reviews from the client and being like, wow, this is amazing. I just got to spend time with my son. I didn't have to worry about like finding a babysitter and losing the money that way. And I still got to provide a really great service for my clients. And like, it was such a win all around. And so then it was like, okay, how can I continue to do this and do it in a way where I'm not compromising the quality, right? And then also like not putting my booth in a situation where it's going to be damaged or, not respected and taken care of. Yeah. So that's kind of where it started was that little first event, and it's been great ever since.
So just for everyone who doesn't know, a drop-off booth is literally a booth that you drop off, you set it, forget it, and then you come back and pick it up later. So you do what? Maybe a couple of hours of work, including driving and assembly and tear down and all that. And how much do you charge for your drop-off?
So it depends. There's a couple ways that you can kind of go about it. You can either do it by hour or you could do it by event. I typically like to do drop-offs by the event and not per hour, just because I've had some drop-offs where it was just like 1 hour. And I'm like, well, it's not going to be worth it my time, to do it if I'm not charging just the full amount. And so the kind of way that I went about it was, I don't charge a lot. It's probably about like $500. Again, it just kind of depends on the situation. But I started to really advertise it for corporate clients. And I did this for several reasons. Number one, I knew that when alcohol was involved, because I've been to weddings, right, with my booth. I've seen what happens at weddings. I've seen it when I was there physically with my booth, and people just, they're having a good time. They're not thinking about even what's around them, right? Like there's some drunken situations that have just gotten out of control. And to imagine my photo booth on its own at a wedding was just like, I don't know, that's smart. Like not only just for the booth and like protecting my investment, but just also like, I don't want that liability, like even though I have insurance, even though I have, whatever on it, and a solid contract that protects it or whatever, it was still something I was like, I just don't want that anything bad to happen. I don't want any client to ever get hurt or something knocked over or whatever. And so my idea was, okay, I wanted to be at a corporate event because there's going to be a limit on the alcohol consumption at those events.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably like 2 drink, maximum at those events. And generally everyone is going to be really respectful there. Like they're going to be on their best behavior, like they're not looking to make a fool of themselves, most of the time. So, so that's kind of where I kind of position drop-off booths as an option, was for corporate clients to kind of serve them. And it's worked really well. Like I've done several drop-off photo booths for like luncheons, where they're having an event during the day, during the week, and they want to have the photo booth during their little lunchtime. And we did an event about a month ago, and we came to pick it up, and I came with my son because now he gets to come with me to help set up and tear down. He gets to be part of the experience.
Nice.
And there was like a line forever, waiting for the photo booth. And I was like, this is so cool. Like no one knows it's my booth, and I just get to watch them have this really cool experience with my photo booth. So, it's such a win-win to maximize on, time with my family, which is so important to me. And then still making money, and also like advertising too, because if you're collecting emails with your photo booth, it's a free, marketing email resource. So it's such a great option for your business.
Okay. I have a couple of questions and stuff that you mentioned there. So let's talk about contract requirements. Well, actually, before we go into that, let's talk about insurance. Because I remember when I used to do this way back when I first started, my insurance didn't cover it at all. And so we actually would take security deposits on it back then. Mm-hmm. But how do you do it?
So that's a really good point. The first insurance provider I had did not. And as soon as I made the decision that I wanted to offer it, I knew like, okay, I'm not going to do it unless I know that my insurance will cover this. Mm-hmm. For liability, for any injury resulting from something happening with the photo booth, but also like for protection on the equipment, the huge investment that I made, right? And so I did research, and again, this is something that's varies state to state, country to country. But I found State Farm in Florida was able to cover using something called an inland marine rider, like addendum. And so they're able to use that to then cover the photo booth. And I drilled them on it too. I was like, are you sure? If anything were to happen, will this cover it? And they're like, yes. So that is what I went with. And so that made me feel so much better knowing that that side was all covered. And I do that. I don't take a security deposit. I'm not like, and it is also, again, because I'm very, very picky on my clients. Like, it's usually like I have to know them already, or like it's a referral or something like that. And I would never, I don't really put them outdoors. I wouldn't leave my photo booth outdoor. Like there's a lot of things that I require with my drop-offs. Of course. Just because I want the best experience. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that can happen to not result in the best experience. But so finding a good insurance provider that does cover it is important. And if not, definitely take whatever precautions you can to make sure that you are covered in any kind of situation. So taking security deposits is a great thing to do too. Yeah,
from my insurance days, another option that you can do if you can't find someone who covers it, you can actually ask the person who is having the event to add you to their, well, not add you, but you ask for a certificate of insurance with the value of your replacement costs on the photo booth. So you want to make sure it's like fully the cost to replace absolutely everything, which oftentimes is in the tens of thousands of dollars, right? Yeah. If we're being honest about everything that we're bringing. But that way, if something does happen, you could potentially go after the client's insurance to claim any damages back on your photo booth. We usually do that with like really large events that we're doing for a few days or something like that, but that is an option. So aside from that, though,
That's so
what are you putting in your
interesting.
contract? Because this
Oh
is
yeah.
obviously different.
Contract is very, very important. And my contract definitely states the cost of the replacement. It states that it can't be moved. So whenever I set up the photo booth, I make sure everything is dialed in. I make sure everything is taped down, secured, and I really don't want my clients touching it. And so my contract explicitly says, do not move it. If you do, this cost is going to be added. And yeah, being very specific on even like replacement costs. If something's broken, what are the repercussions for it? Having a contract is incredibly valuable in these kinds of situations, because you're not there to monitor situations, and you're not there to see
Yep.
if someone does drop it and put it back up, like if that ever happens. So someone scratch it. Oh my gosh, I just thought of this. Like if someone scratches the paint off of the booth, oh my gosh, I'd be so upset.
So
Yeah.
upset.
So definitely having a contract and making sure it's like actually either created or reviewed by your lawyer, and
Yes.
making sure it's specific to your state, your jurisdiction, is also super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, those are all really great points, because contract is, I think a lot of people probably didn't even think that if they do a drop off that they need to, do other things. So like, let's say on the salsa booth, what if they unplug the booth and then all of a sudden the light's not working? Has that ever happened to you? Because it happened to
No,
us once. It didn't? Oh my God.
no.
Well, lucky you.
No, yeah. And I also like monitor the booth too.
Yeah.
I'm checking the live galleries, making sure images are coming through. I think the worst thing I've ever encountered is the Wi-Fi, not
Yeah.
working. And then thankfully, even in that situation, at least they're still able to use a photo booth, even if like the
Hmm.
digital captures aren't sending right away. Um, what I've done is like I've just brought my hotspot with me. So typically I'll ask first. That's in my contract. Like, do you have Wi-Fi? You need to provide
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. And most of the time I'll show up and Wi-Fi isn't really working, or you can't really
Hmm.
connect, or like those kinds of things happen. And in that case, like obviously it's not my responsibility, but I want to provide my clients the best service.
Yeah.
And the booth is going to capture those photos still, and then I'll bring a hotspot or go find Wi-Fi as soon as I can after the event and have it all send to the client. But that's the worst thing that has happened. I can't even think of another situation. Yeah, I think not having Wi-Fi.
The biggest one. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are scared about like what the cost of Wi-Fi is, but I know for us, like I think the most we've ever used, at least in a digital drop-off booth, was like maybe 3 gigs, maybe like on
Yeah.
a 6-hour event, and that was with a lot of usage. So it's not that bad.
No.
Um, okay, but if you had to give me a list of do's and don'ts, rapid fire, give me a couple of do's for drop-offs.
Do share the value of the experience for your clients. It is a really, really fun experience, and if you're collecting emails, also highlight that. Do your due diligence in researching your client and making sure they're going to be a good fit, and figuring out why they're wanting a photo booth and how you can best service it. And service them, and provide an excellent service for them. And do make sure you have a really good contract. Do make sure you have really great insurance, and make sure that you are comfortable with the entire scenario. If you're not comfortable and you're just going to be anxious the whole time, stick around, like maybe stick around. Like, it is normal, I think, in that first time you're ever dropping off your photo booth,
Yeah.
like to be a little nervous. But if you're getting nervous because of your client, then, it might be worth it to just stick around and just provide service, and then back off if you need to. I did that one time. A corporate client booked me for double booths. And they wanted to do the drop offs, and I was nervous about that because I'd never done that before. So I kind of just hung out and monitored, and it went well. And so the next year when they wanted me again, I was like, all right, here's the booths, and, pieced out knowing that everything was going to go well because we'd done it before and it was a great experience. So yeah, just making sure you have all the ducks in a row, and, even providing some sort of troubleshooting guide if you want to. Like, I don't even know if that's entirely necessary, but if you feel like the client is nervous about having a drop-off photo booth and not having you around, then maybe having a quick sort of resource for them would be helpful. It'll ease them. It'll, ease your peace of mind too. Yeah.
Do they ever call you if something happens?
Yeah, if something happens, yeah. But yeah. I've never, it hasn't happened.
They don't
so
call.
They don't know.
Haven't had a call yet.
Yeah. I'll leave my phone number for sure. Be like, hey, anything you need, here we go. But it's been really great. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some don'ts to do? Don'ts to not do with drop off.
Yes. I would say one of the first things that come to mind is don't do a drop-off booth outside. I think there's way too much that can go wrong. You can't control the weather, and it is not going to be your client's first priority if it were suddenly to rain for them to get the booth. That's the last thing they're thinking about. And so that's on you, So if you are insistent on doing a drop-off photo booth outside, like, I want you to think of literally everything. I want you to think of power. What happens if, lightning strikes the building? Like, what about rain? What about wind? Think of every single thing.
What about children?
Children. Yes. So that's another. I don't do drop-off photo booths with kids. Kids are so smart these days. They know how to handle iPads and tablets and all of that stuff. And so,
I have a funny story
and they get
for
excited.
You about that.
Photo booths just attract children. So it is just, if you were doing a kid's birthday, I would just say, just attend it, just be there. Even if you want to just be 4 feet away, just to watch it all. I think that's just going to be better because kids just don't understand that if you pull the photo booth, it's going to fall on you. There's a lot of, you know what I'm saying? Like, those things happen. So, that's my second don't. And my third don't is going to be, don't print. I think there's way too much that happens with printers, especially if you're doing wireless printing. Like, even if you're doing wired printing, there's printers jam, they run out. There's just a lot of things that can happen. It's just so much better if you're present to be able to troubleshoot those things. You can't expect your client to troubleshoot that when they pay for a service. So,
yeah, that's true. So talking about the kids, I have a funny story I have to tell you because we did an install once, which is kind of like a drop off, but it was at a mall. And it was on guided access. I was on vacation in California and I got a FaceTime call from my photo booth at the mall. And I'm like, what?
How is that? Wow.
Yeah. And a kid figured out how to get out. I mean, maybe I could have made a better password, but he figured out how to get out of it. He made a FaceTime call to the first number that was there, which was my cell phone, and called me. And I'm like, oh my God. So I had to send someone to the mall to go and, lock the booth up. But then he decided to watch Netflix on there too. He logged into his parents' Netflix account.
Your photo booth was babysitting a child at the mall. Like,
yeah.
Much. Wow.
Yeah. So guided access, make that code real complex.
So true. Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
But I love your comment about prints though.
Yeah.
Because so many people ask us for drop-off booths with prints, especially for long-term stuff. And I'm like, if I'm bringing a printer, I am not giving it to you to man on your own.
No.
I'm sorry. I like you more than that.
Well, yeah, I don't want to burden. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to burden my client with that responsibility. If it stops printing, then they're going to be mad at, right? That's not going to be a good experience.
You're going to know how to change the paper. We have to watch a whole video on how to do it. It's not like an office printer, right? It's totally different.
it took
Yeah.
several training sessions for my attendants to figure out how to do the printer. So like, I
Yeah.
can't even imagine putting that on a client. So no, yeah, like it's just so much easier. If you're going to do printing, if your client's insisting on printing, it's just going to be
Mhm.
attended and you just have to account for that financially, with pricing.
Yeah.
So
Now, for
yeah,
anyone who's interested in getting into drop off booths, because you've made it quite a lucrative business out of this, and I know you drop off multiple booths, weekends and all that kind of stuff, and then pick them back up. So you get your weekends, you get your time.
yeah,
And you helped write an amazing guide called the Ultimate Drop Off Photo Booth Guide, which is
yes,
available in the comments below if any of you are interested in learning how to do it the right way, the way Nicole does it. Make sure you download that guide. And I mean, it's a really great way to get back some of your time, especially if you're getting into those busier times with your photo booth, or even if you're just starting out and you really don't want to be going to every single event and spending 4 or 5 hours with strangers. It's also a great
yep,
way to expand your services, right? Without having to add a
absolutely.
ton of personnel. So definitely
Yeah, I
check
think
that
that's one
out.
of the biggest benefits. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Any last words on drop off booths?
No, I think it's such a great resource. I think just getting that time back and being able to expand your business without having to train new people is so great. And I also want to add too, especially if you're doing drop off photo booths for corporate clients, there's so much opportunity for adding on additional things to it. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
add on wraps, like you can wrap your
Oh,
photo booth and
yeah.
charge the client. That's what I've been like, a lot of my corporate clients have done when they have a sponsor for the photo booth. That photo booth, that logo's all over the photo booth. You could do
Mhm.
a custom, backdrop with logos, especially like for corporate clients. I think drop off booths are just awesome because there's so many other things you can add to really get a lot of revenue from it. So highly
That's such
recommend.
a
Yeah.
great add-on. Yeah, easy to do as
Hmm.
well. Awesome, Nicole.
Exactly.
Thank you for allowing me to grill you on drop-off booths. I love hearing every time you talk about them and how simple you've made them. So
Yeah,
we will
it's so
see
great.
you on the next one.
See ya.